I'd been sitting alone at that restaurant table for 25 minutes, convinced my blind date had already decided I wasn't worth showing up for, when a small hand grabbed mine under the table, and a little girl's voice said, "Daddy, I found you." I looked down into the face of a 5-year-old I had never seen in my life. For a second, neither of us moved. Then her expression started to crumble, confusion turning fast into panic, as she realized, in real time, that I was a complete stranger. And that's the exact moment her mother came sprinting through the restaurant door, scanning the room in barely controlled panic, and locked eyes with me holding her daughter's hand. What happened over the next few minutes in that restaurant was awkward enough on its own. What happened over the following 4 months afterward is the part I actually want to tell you about, because that accidental mistake turned out to be the reason I met the two people who'd eventually rearrange my entire life. If you've ever had a moment of pure chaos turn out to be the best thing that ever happened to you, stay with me, because this story starts with a 5-year-old's honest mistake, and it ends somewhere neither of us saw coming. Quick context before the actual story starts. My name's Ryan. I was 43, recently out of a relationship that had quietly fizzled rather than exploded, and I'd let a coworker talk me into trying an online dating app, mostly to stop her from asking about my Friday nights every single week. I'd matched with someone named Kate a few weeks earlier. A handful of good conversations, enough chemistry through text to actually get nervous about meeting in person, which hadn't happened to me in longer than I wanted to admit. Her profile had mentioned, briefly, that she had a daughter, a detail I'd registered, and then mostly set aside, figuring it would come up naturally in conversation whenever it needed to. We'd agreed on a Thursday evening at a mid-priced Italian place downtown, the kind of restaurant everyone picks for a first date because it's serious enough to matter, but casual enough to escape from if things go badly. I got there 10 minutes early, ordered water, and watched 25 minutes pass with no sign of her and no message explaining why. I'd checked my phone probably a dozen times, composing and deleting increasingly awkward opening lines in my head for whatever text I'd eventually send. I was in the middle of composing a polite exit text when a small hand found mine under the table. I had no idea that small hand belonged to Kate's daughter, or that Kate herself was less than 60 seconds behind her, caught in a traffic jam that had turned a 15-minute drive into 45 agonizing ones. The girl's name, I'd learned seconds later, was Lily. She'd apparently scanned the restaurant for a man sitting alone, matched that description to whatever mental image she'd built of the man mommy's meeting for dinner, and confidently walked straight to my table, certain enough to grab my hand before she'd even properly looked at my face. Her expression shifted so fast once she actually looked up at me, confusion, then a flicker of real fear at having grabbed a stranger, her small hand instinctively tightening like she didn't know whether to let go or hold on tighter, her eyes darting briefly toward the restaurant entrance, as if hoping her mother would appear that exact second. "Hey, it's okay," I said quickly, keeping my voice calm, crouching slightly so I wasn't looming over her. "I think you might be looking for someone else." That's exactly when Kate came through the door at something close to a run, dark hair falling loose from a ponytail, phone still in her hand, scanning the restaurant with the specific panic of a parent who'd lost sight of their child for even 30 seconds too long. Her eyes found Lily's table, found me, found her daughter's hand still loosely holding mine, and every emotion crossed her face in about 2 seconds flat. Terror, relief, and then, unmistakably, embarrassment. That's exactly when Kate came through the door at something close to a run, dark hair falling loose from a ponytail, phone still in her hand, scanning the restaurant with the specific panic of a parent who'd lost sight of their child for even 30 seconds too long. Her eyes found Lily's table, found me, found her daughter's hand still loosely holding mine, and every emotion crossed her face in about 2 seconds flat. Terror, relief, and then, unmistakably, embarrassment. "Oh my God!" "Lily, baby, come here," she said, closing the distance fast, crouching down to Lily's height, checking her over the way parents do without even seeming to think about it. Then she looked up at me, still catching her breath. "I am so sorry." She must have thought, I don't even know what she thought. "I'm Kate. I think I'm supposed to be meeting you." I hadn't fully put it together until that exact sentence. "Ryan," I said, still slightly stunned by the entire sequence of events. "I think your daughter found me before you did." Kate closed her eyes for a second, clearly mortified. This is not how I pictured this going. I want to be honest. A 5-year-old grabbing my hand under a restaurant table wasn't exactly the meet-cute I'd been expecting from a dating app. But something about the chaos of it actually broke the ice in a way a normal, polished first date probably wouldn't have. By the time Kate had gotten Lily settled with crayons and a kids menu, both of us were laughing about it, the tension completely gone. Lily, it turned out, hadn't originally been part of the plan at all. Kate's usual sitter had canceled last minute, and rather than reschedule an actual, real date for the third time in as many weeks, Kate had made the split-second decision to bring Lily along and let her color quietly at a nearby table, while the actual date happened a few seats away. The traffic jam had separated them by exactly the wrong amount of time. "I'm generally more organized than this," Kate said, still slightly pink in the face. "I promise this isn't a normal representation of how I handle things." "I don't know," I said. "I thought it was a pretty impressive introduction, honestly. Efficient, if nothing else." She laughed properly for the first time that night, and something about that laugh, genuine, a little relieved, told me this date, disaster start and all, was going considerably better than I'd expected 25 minutes into sitting alone. I didn't know it yet, but I was about to learn, over the following weeks, exactly why Kate had been so nervous about bringing anyone new into Lily's orbit in the first place, and it had nothing to do with logistics. We saw each other 3 more times over the following month, always without Lily. Always slow and deliberate in a way that told me Kate was being careful about something specific. She'd ask questions during those dates that seemed casual on the surface but felt, in hindsight, like they were quietly testing something deeper. How I felt about kids in general, whether I saw myself wanting a family eventually, how I handled unpredictability. I answered honestly each time, not fully understanding yet what she was actually trying to assess. It was our 4th actual date, sitting on a park bench after a walk, when she finally explained it directly. "Lily's father left when she was 2, she said, not looking at me, focused on a spot somewhere across the park. Not died, left. Decided fatherhood wasn't the life he wanted, and he's been essentially absent since. A birthday card some years, nothing most others. I've spent 3 years being both parents, and the one thing I promised myself was that I wouldn't let anyone into her life who wasn't going to stay. She's already lost one father figure. I won't let her lose a second one over my dating mistakes." I understood, hearing that, exactly why every date so far had happened without Lily present. Why Kate had seemed to be quietly evaluating something beyond just whether she liked me. "I appreciate you telling me that directly," I said. "I'm not going anywhere, just because things get slightly complicated. But I also understand if you need more time before Lily's part of this at all. That's your call to make, not mine." Kate looked at me for a long moment, something in her expression shifting. "That's actually the answer I was hoping you'd give. Most people say the right thing immediately without meaning it. You paused first." I didn't fully understand the significance of that pause until much later, but it turned out to matter more than I realized in that moment. 6 weeks in, Kate finally invited me to an actual family outing. A Saturday at the park. Lily included this time, officially, not as an accident of bad traffic timing. Lily remembered me immediately, which honestly surprised me. "You're the daddy from the restaurant," she announced to her mother, matter of fact, like she was simply confirming a fact rather than making an observation. "That's Ryan, sweetheart," Kate corrected gently, glancing at me with a slightly apologetic look. "I know," Lily said, entirely unbothered, already moving on to whatever had caught her attention on the playground. Over the following weeks, the daddy from the restaurant became something of a running joke between the 3 of us. Except, gradually, it stopped feeling entirely like a joke. Lily warmed to me faster and more completely than either Kate or I expected, in the easy, uncomplicated way small children sometimes do when they've decided someone's safe. She'd save me a specific swing at the park. She'd ask, unprompted, if I was coming to dinner before Kate had even mentioned inviting me. Kate noticed it too, and I could tell it both delighted and quietly worried her in equal measure. "She's getting attached," Kate said one evening, watching Lily fall asleep on the couch between us during a movie neither of us had actually been watching. Faster than I expected. I don't know if that's a good sign or something I should be worried about. "Maybe it's just a good sign that's also a little scary," I said. "Those aren't mutually exclusive." The real turning point came about 3 months in, on an ordinary Tuesday that had no business becoming as significant as it did. I'd picked Lily up from school as a favor. Kate stuck late at work, something we'd started doing occasionally as trust built between us. Lily was tired, cranky in the specific way 5-year-olds get at the end of a long day, and about halfway through the car ride home, half asleep against the window, she said something quietly that I almost missed. "Daddy, can we get ice cream?" I went completely still at the red light. Not the mistaken, first-day confusion this time. This was different, softer, entirely unconscious, the way kids say things without fully registering the weight behind them. "What did you say, bud?" I asked carefully, needing to hear it again. She blinked, seeming to catch up to her own words a half-second later, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face. "Sorry, Ryan. Can we get ice cream, Ryan?" "We can get ice cream," I said, my voice not quite steady. "Whatever you want to call me is fine, though, just so you know." She smiled, satisfied, already moving on to picking flavors, completely unaware of what she'd just done to me in that car. I told Kate that evening, once Lily was asleep, sitting at her kitchen table turning a coffee mug in slow circles, the way I'd noticed Kate herself did when she was working through something difficult. The house was quiet around us in that particular way houses get once a child has finally settled for the night, and I remember feeling strangely nervous bringing it up, like the words themselves might change something between us before I'd even finished the sentence. "She called me Daddy today," I said. "By accident, I think. Or maybe not entirely by accident anymore." Kate went quiet for a long moment, and I watched several emotions move across her face before she settled on one. "How did that feel? Honestly? Like something I want, actually," I admitted, "which terrifies me a little, considering how careful you've been about all of this. I don't want to push past whatever pace you actually need." "Maybe we don't need to be quite as careful anymore," Kate said slowly, like she was testing the sentence out loud for the first time, watching my reaction as she said it. "Maybe we've been careful long enough to actually know this is real. I've been waiting for a reason to believe that, and I think you just gave me one without meaning to. It's been almost 8 months now since that first chaotic night at the restaurant. I won't pretend everything since then has been simple, because raising expectations that neatly would be dishonest. There were conversations with Kate that got difficult, real fears about repeating old patterns, about what happens to Lily emotionally if things between us eventually don't work out, conversations that sometimes stretched late into the night, with neither of us fully resolving them by morning. We went to see a family therapist together for a handful of sessions, not because anything was wrong exactly, but because Kate wanted expert reassurance that we were building this the right way, slowly enough, honestly enough, for Lily's sake as much as our own. Lily calls me Daddy now, consistently, easily, without the hesitation of that first accidental slip in the car. We haven't made it official in any legal sense yet. Kate and I have talked about it, carefully, but we're in no rush, both of us having learned firsthand what happens when people move too fast with a child's heart involved. Kate still keeps that same slightly protective instinct I noticed on our very first proper date, though it's softened considerably over these months. I understand it completely now, watching how fiercely she loves her daughter, how carefully she's had to rebuild trust in the world on Lily's behalf as much as her own. It's not a wall anymore, the way it might have felt early on. It's just who she is, and I've come to genuinely respect it rather than see it as something standing between us. Some evenings, sitting in Kate's kitchen while Lily does homework at the table between us, I think back to that 25 minutes I spent alone at the restaurant, genuinely convinced I'd been stood up. I think about how easily I could have left before Lily ever found me, how differently the following 8 months would have gone if traffic had been 10 minutes lighter that particular Thursday. I don't think much in terms of fate, generally. But I've started making an exception for one specific 5-year-old's confident, completely mistaken decision to grab a stranger's hand and call him Daddy, because somehow, improbably, she turned out to be right before any of the rest of us had figured it out. Kate says the same thing, half joking, whenever it comes up, that her daughter apparently understood something about all of this faster than either of the actual adults involved managed to. If you've ever had chaos accidentally turn into exactly what you needed, tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story moved you, stay subscribed, because next week's story might hit just as close to home.